Sir from 17 once again. This is my Dead Space 3 Impossible Difficulty video walkthrough. This is Chapter 1, this is Rude Awakening. So I'm going to use this opportunity because the beginning of the game is pretty linear. It feeds you down a narrow path of engagements against human soldiers, doing some shooting sections that are quite alien to the Dead Space franchise. So I'm going to talk about the difficulty, and I'm going to analyse it from my point of view and explain to people the motivations from this guide. So at the beginning of the game there are a handful of difficulty levels to pick. If you analyse them all, Impossible is the most brutal that is described. The one above it is hard, obviously. Then it's normal, then you're going into the easier territories. When you beat the game, you unlock a selection of novelty difficulties, which each will probably be very challenging in their own right, but the game itself, mechanically, is not the most challenging on those settings, because it's set to hard difficulty. That is the same for Classic mode, which sounds interesting. That's the same for Pure Survival mode. It's the same for Hardcore mode. Each of those difficulties are challenging, guys, but they are not as hard as Impossible. And that's a conscious decision from the developer so that those difficulties aren't too overwhelming, which I think is a little bit of a shame. So this walkthrough here is going to hopefully show you how to take the game on in any situation, and will hopefully benefit a hardcore run, a classic run, as pure survival run. The only difference will be the nuance of how those game modes work. And I think that should help the most people, even if you're just going through the game for the first time, or you just want to see some different strategies for your hardcore run. I think something like this should be, you know, everything that you need. The things this guide will not be doing, I'm not going to be doing all the side quests. I might do a couple of them if I think I need the loot, or if I'm in a stiff situation, but for the most, the optional missions are extremely cookie cutter. There's a lot of repeating geometry, a lot of rooms you've already been in several times, and they're actually quite tough as well. And some of the optional missions on the side missions, sorry, in co-op, me and Aiden entered a room the other day. I can't even remember what the fuck we were doing. We were going to get another one of those boxes that it takes two people to open for no real reason. And I've never seen so many necromorphs get thrown at you in a single room. It was insane. We must have died about 5 times on this fucking room. We had 2 weapons with 2 attachments, and both of them were pretty devastating, and we were just getting balled. Like, you're talking, those fishermen, ice climbers that I call them, with the pickaxes, they were throwing like 10 of those that were black at you, and they were one-shotting me when they jumped, because we hadn't upgraded his life or his armor, so if you get clocked correctly, you go down, and it was just really bad. So I'm going to be avoiding those. I'm just going to try and make this as streamlined and as efficient as I can, and hopefully you should pick up a few tricks along the way. The shootouts that we're doing right now against the humans, you want to just aim for the head. It takes them down the quickest. When you're getting shot on this game, the game doesn't really give you much of an input to you taking damage. So I'm going to get shot coming up when I'm up on a balcony, and I didn't even realise it happened. And that is definitely a criticism that I've got in the co-op when I play with Aiden, and I don't know if this is latency, I don't know if it's because he's the host and I'm connecting to him, but necromorphs attack thin air and they hit me, and it's really, really frustrating. Like, I have never flinched from a hit on this game in co-op because it just doesn't register. I just take all the damage instead. It's none of the fun of the animation and knowing I've been clocked and all of the damage. So let's watch this for when I get shot. There it is, there it was. And you'll notice Isaac moved his shoulder a little bit, but that's literally all he did. I think I just got shot again. And yeah, just goes to show, you don't even have to kill those, you can just carry on if you don't want to, but I wanted to shoot some people. But a couple of the mechanics you're going to be seeing in the game. There's a new crafting system implemented in this Dead Space, where instead of finding credits, you find loot. And with loot, you take it to the stores, the benches and things, and you can do a whole bunch of different things. The loot is generally scrap metal and things of that nature, which culminates in making better upgrades, things on your suit. Everything is dictated by the stuff you find. As it was previously, they've just made it a little bit more complicated. And it's an interesting system, which I'm probably going to analyse in a later video. It works, it's got some cool ideas, but it definitely feels a little bit contrived at times. But this room here, there's nothing in it. Continue onwards, pick up all the stuff you can. You have started with an SMG, which when I used it in co-op, I never used it again because it was a giant pile of shit. But when I used it in single player, it actually works at suppressing people, so do not be afraid to use the SMG, it does work. You'll notice I've done a trim there. I'm going to be trimming all the elevators, all the fucking lifts, all the ladders, all the cutscenes, and it's going to hopefully be a nice streamlined experience. This fight here can go extremely quickly, or it can be a bit of a ball ache like you're seeing, because these ice climber guys are doing everything they can to try and kill me. The kneecaps were taking more plasma shots than they should. They were transforming into the belly whips and the waist tentacles and just all sorts of bad stuff, which is a new part of this game. Enemies do get additional transformations. Sometimes it'll be a pair of legs with 3 whips on them, 3 tentacles. Sometimes it'll be a torso with tentacles coming out the back of it, and each of them, they're dangerous. You need to be really careful. This guy on the right here is going to get up. You'll notice I tried to take his arm, which isn't always the best strategy, but it can give you something to use your kinesis on, and then you can fire it, which is going to be something I'm going to be speccing towards, because it saves you ammo, and it is a fun way to play, and it's an effective way to play. My only gripe with it is the same gripe I had in Dead Space 1. When they make it so that you can pick things up in the environment, picking up the thing you want can be really annoying. You end up picking up the body instead of the claw, and it becomes a bit of a Laurel and Hardy sketch at times, so you need to be real careful. But reloading is going to be the bane of these encounters early on, because you don't have many bullets in your guns, they don't reload the quickest, and these enemies move real fast. And anybody wondering what that noise was, that was my alarm clock apparently. But one thing I have noticed with Dead Space, and I haven't noticed it with any other guides I've made, when I put the assets into my editing software, there's a sync problem with the audio. I have to go in and resync the audio. It doesn't make any sense either, because the files that are recorded, the raw files, the assets, they're all in sync. But when they go into Premiere, for some reason they lose sync, and I don't know why. So I'm going to have to look into fixing that in the next installments, because it just took me 5 minutes then, mid-commentary, which is not very good. But that's pulling back the curtain for anybody who's interested. But a couple of things that's going to be happening throughout these videos. My upgrade path is going to be an interesting one, because I'm not too set on what I'm going to do right now. You're going to see a lot of experimenting in this guide, and I'm going to do that hopefully to find something interesting and make it fun to watch. Because as it stands, I know I have the ability to beat impossible difficulty because I've done it before. It's just a case of how competently I make it, and the things that I learn so that I can divulge with you, so that you can avoid some of the situations I get myself into. For instance, I'm going to build a line gun on a force gun, and I'm not going to remember which trigger does what, and I'm going to end up firing the line gun, which is a bad idea early on, because the fire rate is fucking atrocious, so you're waiting then to fire again, and the time it takes you to recover from firing and fire the gun again, you've been punched. And on this difficulty, getting punched is a big thing. So there is going to be plenty of moments where I'm going to tell you not to follow my advice, or not to follow what I just showed, because some of them are not the most efficient way of playing. But upgrade wise, as I was about to say, I don't know if I'm going to upgrade my life. I think I'm going to keep it at base life to keep the challenge interesting. I'm not going to upgrade armor, I don't think. And as far as healing items go, look how many healing items I have. This difficulty should not give you this much healing items. It's just stupid. There's too many of them. So I'm going to throw a lot of those in the safe for later on, just in case I need them. Because the thing is, when you do dismantle them, all you get really is somatic gel, and the only thing that's generally useful for is stuff that's to do with life. So you can't even break the system and use it to craft something really functional. But this is the first big engagement of the game. There's a couple of necromorphs coming from the front, and after a while they're going to come from behind us. That was a big all fail just then. Fired the claw through his legs, goddamn evader. But we've took the legs, we've managed to keep him down. The vent just went through then. I'm actually playing with no volume, so I didn't hear it, I just knew it was gonna happen. And my strategy here was to use the arm of this necromorph to kill the ice climber guy. But he ended up dying. There is the vent going through. There is some space. Stasis is so powerful on this game, guys. It really is. I have a couple of problems with it. My main issue is when you stasis people, they can still hit you. And it seems really apparent in this game just because of how much faster the enemies seem to be. So you want to be careful, because the amount of times I've stasis something and it's completed its attack and hit me, or it's continued to jump forward and hit me, it's really cheap. I don't like it. And watch this. This cheeky bastard whips me. Look at that. I was shooting him, I was hoping to stun him, and he still got an attack off, which took pretty much half my life. So be careful of that. But, as I've mentioned, this difficulty early on gives you plenty of med packs, so you should never really be in any real trouble. Later on, when we get on to volantis, the med packs definitely don't come as thick and fast, but they still come in far too frequently for me. Like, if I was doing this difficulty, I would have taken med packs out. But that's just because that's me. But I definitely think the necromorphs on this game feel really dangerous. I've put, give or take, about 15 hours into this game. And I can play it pretty competently. But I still feel like multiple necromorphs are a threat. And I think that's a good thing, but at the same time, you know, compared to Dead Space 2 and Dead Space 1, you felt comfortable in engagements because you knew you could dispose of them, you had the skill. On this game, your guns sometimes don't perform as well as they should. And if you've played Dead Space 2, you're going to get the planet cracker plasma cutter, which is a very powerful early game gun. I have it as well, but for the purposes of this guide, I didn't want to use it just in case somebody didn't have it. So I'm just going to be using the standard one, and there is a setback to using the planet cracker. You cannot rotate it, so you can only shoot horizontally, which is not a problem because the horizontal one is definitely the most useful, and you're going to get a massive damage increase with it. And as soon as you pick up any parts, you can just throw some stuff underneath and forget that you could ever rotate the plasma cutter. But this is a quick kinesis puzzle. You'll notice I'm looking for as much loot as I can, as much ammunition as I can, because ammo is definitely a problem on this game. The whole point of Impossible is that you're struggling for ammo, you're struggling for a resource, and at times it doesn't feel like a struggle at all, but then it sneaks up on you. And I definitely think that's a tenet of Dead Space, because it happened on Dead Space 1 to me when I played that game on Impossible. But once these trains have connected, there's going to be a ramp leading onto the train. If you quickly run up the ramp, you'll completely skip the engagement with the soldiers that's about to take place, and then we can get on with getting to the end of this chapter.
You can't miss it. It'll be the only thing moving.
All right, understood. I'll close in once you clear the city. Be ready for pickup. This is going to be tricky.
But how is everybody finding it? How is everybody... did you read the reviews? Did you get kind of scared? Did you take into consideration what they said and then apply it to how you feel? Because this game has garnered a lot of negativity, and not from, you know, fanboy douchebag morons who've never played it. Literally mechanical problems, gameplay problems, you know, things like that. And I've seen a lot of them. I really have, and I've got a lot of strong opinions on this Dead Space, which I'm going to share later on when we've got a bigger mission where I don't have as much to say, or where it's, you know, it's not paramount that I tell you some things. So this sequence here, you're coming up against normal soldiers. Guns on this game hurt. For instance, if I stand up and I get tagged by these dudes with a burst, they'll probably kill me. The reason I know this is there's a section coming up where you have to climb a ladder and there's two dudes in front of you. They killed me twice, and they killed me in one burst both times. Very dangerous stuff. But if you wait at the start and you don't go immediately out, you will not get shot by the plane. I forgot to mention that. One of the things that's kind of gay about this aiming section is the train is influencing the aim a little bit. And I don't know about your guys, but as soon as something starts influencing my aim and I have to compensate, my aim goes to shit. It's just kind of how it works. I believe this is the ladder that leads to the dudes. As soon as you land at the top of here, stasis both of them and go for headshots. I do not get headshots because, you know, I'm moving, they're moving, train's moving, but as long as they die, that's all that matters. Run towards the ramp. Carver's going to turn up. I don't know where he comes from. I don't think the game knows where he comes from on co-op either, because he's just kind of there in front of you, even if you were behind. And you're going to have to tap A a couple times, because Visceral thinks that that's a cool idea for a cutscene. But as normal, guys, thank you for watching. I hope the guide helps. I hope it prepares you for your hardcore runs or whatever runs you're planning to do. And as always, you take care now.